everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kathy. If you are new here, thanks so much for stopping by. If we've painted together before, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Today's video is on how to paint a sunflower. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to be using and we will jump right in. So we have 4 colors today that we'll be painting with. We have yellow ochre, daffodil yellow, real brown, and pure black. The brand of paints that I use is FolkArt multi-surface paint. This is not an endorsed video. I just believe in sharing with you guys the paints that I use and that I love and that I've used for years. So I know they work well with this method of painting. All the supplies, by the way, will be listed in the description on the video. So if you need to go back and look at what a certain color is or the brand that we use, it'll be in the description of the video for you. We also have 2 brushes we're using today. We have a 3/4 inch Scruffy brush and a number 12 flat brush, and I will walk you through what both of those brushes do and how we get the paint on the brush and everything you need to know. So along with those supplies, I'm going to scooch this out of the way. We have a few other things we'll be using. We have our Styrofoam plate. This is our very fancy paint palette. I already have our 4 colors on there, just some little blobs of paint. Usually we use about the size of a quarter. You can always add more if you need some for practicing, but that's a good place to start. And again, these are just Styrofoam plates, very fancy paint palette that we have going on. We have a brush basin here off to the side. That's just some water so I can rinse the brushes when we're done. We have on the table some wax paper. Now, whether you're painting with me in person or here on YouTube, always have some wax paper standing by. This is a great surface to practice on. It's what we use when I do live events. It's what I do at home when I'm practicing new techniques. So it's just a nice smooth surface to paint on, and it's very affordable, which I'm a big believer in keeping this affordable for you guys. I want you guys to be able to paint and enjoy without having to worry about a huge investment of money to get you started. So that's why I do appreciate this method of painting. Okay, that's about it. There are some paper towels here off to the side. I have those because I tend to get a little messy. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the sunflower that we're going to be doing today. I have one here on a glass bowl. So I'll show this to you, and we'll talk about some different project ideas too as we get further along. But here's our basic sunflower. So you're going to see we're going to build it together here on the wax paper, but we basically start by pouncing the circle area here. And I don't know if you can see, I think it shows up pretty well. It almost looks like a chocolate covered donut, and you'll see what I mean, that there's icing over the donut. So we're going to talk about how to get that effect just by how you load the paint on the brush. So we paint the center, and then we paint the petals, and we'll talk about how to build these petals here as we go along. I will tell you, I also have a video on my YouTube channel of how to build the basic leaf, and this petal is the same shape as that basic leaf. So I'm going to show you today how to do it, but if you really want a really good practice on how to build that leaf, maybe check out that other video, just a basic leaf video here on my channel. That's super helpful for making this shape of petals. Okay, so, and you'll see we will build the center, then we paint the petals, and then we go over the center again, and I'll show you why that's important here as we go. And then we do add just a little bit of a highlight here. It's real faint, but I'll show you how we do that. It just looks like there's just a little bit of sun shining on your sunflower. So all right, let's take a look. Let's grab our supplies and let's get started. So we are going to start with this Scruffy brush. Now this brush is a little different than some of the ones that we use on other videos. This is a Scruffy or a pouncy brush. It's natural hair. The other hairs on the brushes that we use are more synthetic. The cool thing about this, and you'll see this brush, we've used it on mossy grass. We'll use it once we get into all our holiday painting with snowmen and snow. It's just a really neat brush. It gives you really neat texture, and I'm going to show you what we mean here. So let's grab our plate, and we are going to start with our brown and black to make the center of the sunflower. Just grabbing some paper towels here. Okay, so what we want to do is you want to start with your brush straight up and down, and we are going to dip our brush half in the brown and the other side in the black. Now here's the important part. We are going to come between these 2 puddles, and you are going to take that brush and pounce it up and down. Can you hear the tapping? I know it's probably shaking the camera, and I apologize for that, but we want to tap. And you can see this is what we call a blending spot. Now, I'm not going all over the plate. We're just staying in this one spot because the idea here is we want to work that paint up into the brush. The idea is not to paint our whole plate. So do that a couple times. We're going to dip in the brown, dip in the black, tap, 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 tap. This is a great stress reliever brush. I always joke with people in there who are painting together in person that I can tell who's had a bad day by how hard this brush is hitting that surface. So if you need a little stress relief, just feel free. Go ahead and beat that brush a little bit. It's pretty, it feels good. Okay, so about 2 or 3 times, we just want to make sure our brush is pretty goopy. Can you guys see all the paint on there? You want to have a good amount of paint as we're starting this sunflower. Okay, we're going to do a couple on here just so you can kind of get a feel, but I'm just going to start right here. Now, what we want to do is, if you remember the sunflower here, it's not a circle. It's more of kind of an oval shape. Okay, sunflowers are more kind of that oval, not necessarily a perfect circle. So we're kind of shooting for that. Now, when we brush, use our brush, you're going to see here, we're going to pounce, and we're going to start on one side. We're going to head left to this side, and then we're going to come down. Now, the one thing we're not going to do is rotate our brush, and I'll show you what I mean. But we're going to hold our brush in such a way that the brown is on top and the black is on the bottom, and I'll show you why that's important. Okay, let's go here. Okay, so we want to make sure I got enough paint. So brown is on top, black is closest to your body, and we're going to start. Remember, we're doing an oval. Now, if you're left-handed, play with this a little bit because it might make more sense for you to go to the right. Some folks who are left-handed, it doesn't really matter. They don't see a preference, but just know that's an option if that works better for you. But we're going to start here, and remember, we're going to do an oval, okay? Brown is on top, and I'm just going to start, and I'm going to pounce the top, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm not going to rotate my brush, but what I am going to do is come back and do the bottom half of this. So if you think of kind of a rainbow and then a smile. Okay, and I'm going to come right down there. All right, so we started here. We're going to go up to the left, stop at that edge. Now come down and bring it right back around. Now I will hold this up for you, but if you're painting this at home, you should be able to see brown, like a lighter brown on top and the black towards the bottom. Okay, remember how we talked about that it sort of looks like a chocolate covered donut. So your brown is on top, and here you should see a little bit of dark in there. Okay, and that comes with, as we're loading the brush and keeping your colors on there. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some more. I'm going to reload. So I'm going to go half in the brown, half in the black. Remember, pounce. And the same thing we did for loading. So every time you need to pick up fresh paint, you will do this exact procedure. Same thing we did when we started. So dip each corner, tap, and work that paint up into the brush, okay? And you'll know, you guys will know, you'll feel when your brush is sort of running out of paint and that you need to grab some more. Okay, I'm going to do another one here so that we'll have 2 to practice on as far as our petal goes. So remember, brush straight up and down, okay? And this handle, you guys, pointing to the ceiling. Okay, I know it's kind of a weird angle here, but always when you're doing this, this tip of this brush should be pointing up to the ceiling. That way, you're just right on the brush and you're not leaning to the left or to the right, and then your strokes can get muddy. So handle to the ceiling. Okay, so remember here, we talked about we're going to start and go to the left and then bring it back around. So you have an up and over like a rainbow, and then you have a smile. Again, if you're left-handed, maybe take this and practice, start here and go to the right. That might be an easier pattern to do than going to the left. So find what works for you. I have a lot of left-handed people that paint with me, so we always try to find whatever technique works best as far as how you hold the brush. So just some thoughts. Okay, so we are going to start here. I'm going to come down just a little bit lower. And remember, we're starting here, brown on top, black is closest to your body. We're going to start tapping, and I'm going to go over. Okay, so that's the top half. Now, we're not turning, we're not rotating. Brown is still on top, and now I'm just going to bring it back around this way. Okay, so we were here. Now we're going to come down and come back up. If you're getting a hole in the center as you're coming here, so we're going to come across, don't dip down way down here and leave a hole. You're going to come across and then go right back so that your brown is right on that edge as you're coming around. Does that make sense? Okay, so we went up and over, stop here, bring it back around. Okay? So those are our 2 centers. Now, just set this brush aside. You don't need to rinse this brush because we're going to come back and use it here, and I'll show you why here in just a minute as we finish our petals. Okay, so we have 2 beautiful centers here. We are now going to grab our flat brush, okay, our number 12 flat, and we are going to work on some petals. So we are going to do something called double loading here, same as what we did here with 2 colors, but this time instead of pouncing, we're going to swoosh back and forth. So let's practice that. So with your brush straight up and down, I'm going to dip one side in that mustardy color, that yellow ochre, the other side in my brighter yellow daffodil. Now in this section here, we want to slide and push. So you're going to pull that brush towards you, push away, towards you, push away. And if you guys can see, that brush is all the way down. Those bristles are all the way down. You really want to push those bristles all the way down. We want to work the paint up into the brush. Okay, and this is double loading. And if you look at that blending spot, the yellow ochre is on the left and the lighter yellow is on the right. Okay, and each time, you're going to do this probably 3 or 4 times, you guys. You want to get a lot of paint on here. Each time you dip, you'll come back to that same spot and go over. As we're practicing our petals and you feel like you need to pick up more paint, you will do this exact same thing. Okay, so yellow ochre, daffodil yellow, swoosh it back and forth. And can you guys see you want a lot of paint on that brush? Okay. Now I will tell you, as you're doing this method, it will happen. You will dip in the wrong color. You'll dip this yellow ochre over here. Not a big deal. Happens to all of us, no matter how long you've been doing one-stroke painting. Okay, so if that happens, you just wipe it off and start over. Not a big deal. All right. So again, you want this brush to be pretty goopy. And I'm just going to set my plate over here for when we need to reload. And I reload often, you guys. It's very important that you have fresh paint as you're doing this and that you have enough paint on your brush so that the strokes slide how you want them to. Okay, so as far as the petal shape goes, you basically are going to work from the edge of the sunflower out. Okay, that's kind of how we're going to go around. Now, as we're doing this, you'll see you can always turn your surface. I'm just going to leave mine here so you can kind of see the different perspective. But remember, you can do a few petals, turn your paper, do a few petals, turn your paper. And that is okay when you're first starting. It's not always the easiest to do these petals going all different directions. So we're going to practice going one direction, get you comfortable with that. And then, like I said, you can always turn your surface. Okay, so this petal, like we mentioned at the top of the video, is basically a one-stroke leaf or a basic leaf. So I just will remind you that I do have a video on my channel of the basic leaf. So if this stroke is kind of maybe a little tougher for you, I would highly recommend going back and watch that leaf video because it will give you some more practice. But let's take a look. We're going to just practice along the side here so you can kind of get a feel for these petals. Okay. In this case, your brush is going to be straight up and down. It really, in this case, doesn't matter. I happen to have the yellow ochre on top and the brighter yellow on the bottom, but honestly, it doesn't matter. But we are going to touch the surface. We are going to lay our brush down and we're going to slide up as we're twisting. So let me show you and I'm going to walk you through it. So as I'm holding this brush, I am straight up and down, but the yellow ochre is going to point till about 10 o'clock. Okay, you don't want, in this case, straight up and down. We want to have a little bit angled. You're going to touch, lay the brush down ahead of you, push down, slide up. As you're sliding, you're going to turn a corner, keep sliding on the edge of the brush, slide, 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 and lift up. Okay, so we start with a little wider and then it comes to a point. We're going to try that again. My brush is pointing at 10 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to touch on the edge. I'm going to push it down ahead of me, squish down a little bit. As you're sliding, you're going to rotate and slide up. And you can see we started here, but we ended here. Okay, let me see if I can get one more in here on the camera shot. Push it forward, slide. As you're sliding, you're going to rotate and end up on, see how we're up on that edge. And it's just a quarter turn rotate as you're sliding. Now, one thing I think when people are first starting this that I see often is you kind of get here. And let me do it up here. I don't want to mess up our view, but you kind of get here and then you lift up. Okay, and then we just get this blob. You need to stay on that brush the whole time you're twisting and lifting. So here's one more. Pointing at 10 o'clock, I'm going to push down as I'm sliding. See, we're sliding. As I'm sliding, I'm going to rotate that brush a quarter turn so I end up on the edge. Okay, this is one, I tell you, as you're watching this, stop, rewind, practice the stroke. It's once you get it, you will feel it on your brush and you'll be like, yes, there it is. But this is one that just takes a little bit of practice. And I have you, when you first start learning the stroke, go one direction, okay? Get this petal one direction, and that's where I was talking about earlier. Once you get going this direction, you can just rotate your surface. You can do your top couple petals here, turn it, get your sides, turn it, and then do the bottom. Okay, once you're comfortable doing these, you know, practice a couple hundred times, it'll be fine. Once you're comfortable, then you're really able to kind of go in all different directions and not worry about having to turn it. But for now, we just want to work on this petal shape, pushing away from you. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay, now that we've practiced that, I'm going to pick up some fresh paint, okay, and we're going to go around and add our petals. So the first step, pouncing our circle. Next step is going to be adding these petals, and I'm just going to work my way around and show you how we do that. Then we're going to go back and repounce, and I'll show you why that's important. Okay, I'm going to start just with the top petals here. I start with my brush right on the edge of that sunflower. Now, the cool thing is we're going to get color highlight and shading just with these two colors that we have on our brush. But if you pounce this circle and it's still wet, if you start with your brush right on that edge, you're going to pick up some of that brown and black, and it looks really cool as far as highlights go. Okay, so let me just kind of show you, and I'll lift this up when we're done so you can get a real good feel. All right, I'm going to start right on that edge, lay my brush down, twist as I'm sliding, lift up, and I'm going to work my way around the sunflower. Okay, and I got about 3 petals in there, and I feel like I need to pick up some paint. So I went back over to the plate, swoosh back and forth, and then I'm just going to continue. Now my placement of these petals, they do kind of overlap or touch just a little bit, and that's perfect. And remember, we're just right on this edge, and we're just going to go and work our way around. Okay, and we're just on a roll here. We're just going to keep going. All right, now this is where I would recommend when you're starting, go ahead and rotate your surface. Now I'm just going to kind of go so I don't have to move our camera and move our wax paper, but I'm just going to kind of go along, and you're going to go around the whole edge. And again, they can kind of overlap a little bit. Okay. And you guys see, I get about 3 petals, and then I come over and I pick up some more paint. Okay. We're going to push and turn and slide, push, turn, slide, push, turn, slide. And we have 1 more that we're going to fit in there. Okay. All right. So we started with our pouncing. We went all the way around. And you guys saw about every 3rd petal, I picked up more paint. You definitely want to have a lot of paint. You want it to be very goopy as you're doing these strokes. And I'm going to show you too. Let me show you this one. This is a piece of wood that I have a sunflower painted on here. And can you see at the bottom here how we have all kinds of goopy color, but then there's also brown and black streaking through it? That's because I painted the center, and I immediately went and was pulling out those petals, and it really pulled some of those colors in, which is pretty neat how that works. So don't be afraid to still paint while things are wet, because that's kind of cool how sometimes you pull in all those patterns. Okay, we're going to come down here, and let's do one more so you can kind of get a feel for it. I'm over at my plate. Remember, dip each corner, blend, blend, blend. Picking up some more paint. Okay, then we're going to come here. And honestly, you guys, it doesn't matter where you start. I just tend to start at the top and work my way around. But if you want to start on the side and go, that's fine too. There's no right or wrong. All right, remember, we're touching that edge. And we push, turn, slide, lift up. And I'm just going to come around. Now, my paint's pretty goopy on this one, so I made it about 5 petals here because I had a lot of paint on my brush. Okay, and you're just going to work around the edge. Now remember, this painting upside down thing, that's the goal, but that's not our first goal. Our first goal is just getting those petal shapes where you're able to push it away. And you can always turn your surface. The only time it's hard turning your surface is if you're painting on a wall. Otherwise, everything is pretty turnable. Okay, and then there's our last petal. All right, so again, the biggest thing I can stress is that you need to practice these petal shapes and get comfortable with those, and then the sunflower kind of comes together. And I'm going to lift this up so you can see it here in just a minute. But we have a couple more steps to do. Okay, I'm done with that flat brush now, and I'm going to go back and grab our Scruffy brush. And I didn't rinse mine, so it's still got the black and the brown on it. But I am going to come and pick up some fresh paint. So you remember how we did that? We dipped one half in the brown, the other half in the black. And this is where we tapped up and down because it's that Scruffy brush. It's different than our flat brush where we swoosh back and forth. Okay, so picking up some fresh paint, give it a good tap. Remember, if you're having a stressful day, tap away. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I don't know, let's see how much I can pick this up. Can you guys see the edges here? So we did our center, then we did our petals, and everywhere a petal touched that sunflower, it's very messy. Like it overlaps. It's kind of, you can see the color bleeding through the bottom. It's not pretty. It's not clean looking. So that's why we pounce, do our petals, and then we're going to repounce just to clean up our edges here. Okay. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're just really concentrating on getting that brush to those edges and covering up those messy spots there. So here I'm going to start. Remember, we went to the left and then went back to the right, and it's kind of a rainbow and a smile. All right, so here we go. Now I'm going to tap, and I'm going to make sure that my brush is hitting all those outside edges. Because what's going to happen now, instead of this looking flat with messy edges, it's going to look more 3D because that brown and back, that chocolate covered donut we talked about, is going to be prominent. Okay, I'm going to come down here and do the same thing with this guy, starting on the right-hand side, and we'll be heading left. And I'm just making sure I'm watching the edge of my brush, that it really gets those edges where it meets the sunflower. Okay. All right. So very cool. Now, one more thing that I love to add to these sunflowers is just that little bit of highlight. So actually, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush that we just used. I'm not going to rinse it. I'm just going to wipe it off. Okay. I just want to get most of the paint off there. Okay. So not rinsing. I don't want this brush to be wet, and that's the reason I'm not rinsing it, but I just want to get most of that paint off. I want it to be a little bit on the drier side. Okay. So again, you don't have to rinse it. We just want to get the bulk of that paint off. And the reason why is we are now going to come back to this yellow ochre, and the brown side of this brush, I'm going to just lightly tap just a little bit. You don't want the whole brush. You just want a little bit of a smidge of the ochre. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to tap it out. Now you can see it's still messy. There's still some brown and black in there. But what I just want is just a little hint of that mustard color. Okay, you don't want it to be real thick. And that's why I just tap it all over, and you see how it's kind of thinning it out. We almost want like a dry brush effect. For those of you who have done like some sort of ceramics and those kind of things, it's the same kind of thing. All right, let me show you this guy here. The highlight is basically like a letter C, and what we do is we pounce along the edge of where that brown and black meet and just kind of give it just a little, it's not a full circle, just a little bit of a C, just a little bit of a highlight. Okay, so let's start with this top one. Remember, and I'll lift this up so you can see, but this is kind of where my brown edge is, and then my black is in the center, so I want to just go along right along that brown edge. And all I'm going to do is take that very edge, and I'm just going to tap. And I'm just going to do the letter C. Let's come down here. You start about halfway, and then you're just going to tap. So again, you don't want a big goopy paintbrush full of the yellow ochre. You want just it kind of dry, because we're just adding like a little sprinkling, like where the seeds in the sunflower would be, where the light's hitting. Okay, I'm so excited that we did this sunflower together. Let me lift this up so you can kind of see how it looks from a different angle. Okay, so let me lift this up. So now you can see we have our pounced, we did our petals, we repounced to clean up all those edges, and then we have that little bit of highlight there. You guys see those? So fun. They're just so fun. Late summery into fall, these flowers, they're so pretty. They're so popular too. I mean, if you go anywhere, you see them against the black and white. The plaids and the dark greens, just super fun. So let me show you a couple projects. I showed you the bowl when we first started, and this is just sunflower and some wiggle leaves. I will have a video coming out on the wiggle leaves on how to do that. You could also just watch that basic leaf video and do a couple basic leaves next to it too. Okay, but that's just a bowl, little candy dish, candle, anything you want to put in there. I do have my favorite. You know, painting on glass is my favorite, you guys. Here's a wine glass. Same thing, just a sunflower and some wiggle leaves, which you'll be able to see on my channel soon. Okay. And then this was just a little wood sign, just a little piece of wood. And we did the sunflower with some leaves. And then this is just, I don't know if you can see it. It's a piece of wood. It's wood that says grateful. And I sort of took that pouncy brush and painted on there and then just glued it on. Okay, and this is just like a little hangy sign. So you guys, any surface, we talked about this multi-surface paint we're using, and the beauty of this is that you can use this for anything that you're painting on. Whether you're on wood or tin or glass or canvas, this multi-surface will work great for you. It's got a little bit of a sealer in it. It has a really nice sheen, and it works great. So no matter what you're painting on, it'll work for you. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here today and joining me for sunflowers. I hope it was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it and maybe learned something new. If you did, if you would consider hitting the like button below, that would be awesome. So I know that you enjoyed it. If you would also consider hitting that subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me. That'll just let you know when I upload the next video and when new content is coming out. So it would be great to have you following my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. If there's any comments or suggestions, please leave those below. Remember, all the supplies we use will be in the description as well, so you can refer back to it later. But thanks, you guys. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for painting sunflowers with me. Bye-bye.